Welcome to the Splitting Hairs podcast, presented by Cottonwood Coffee and Bistro of Brookings, South Dakota, and True North Retirement Team. It is Tuesday night, coming here live. Stack, what's up, man?
Not much. How you doing?
Doing well. Long day for me. Finally getting some rain out here. The Rangers made it to the World Series, so we got some good momentum, some good juju on our side out here in the Lone Star.
The Bears won this weekend too, so I'm feeling pretty good myself. So
there you go. Are you feeling the new quarterback we got going for Chicago or what?
I think the game plan was just a lot better. I thought our O-line played uncharacteristically well. So, he's a good player for sure. And to step up from being a D2 quarterback a year ago and playing in front of 60,000 people now or however many people and excelling in that role, I think that's pretty dope for him. But I still think I'm a Justin Fields guy all the way, though.
Oh, yeah. There's no even comparison when it comes to talent and upside and ceiling, but it's nice to have a guy who's young and youthful, can come in and step in and do what he did. And that's what we like to see from our squads. Theis got a W last week, so I was happy. The Lions got just bludgeoned, so that was cool to see.
The Packers had a bad game too, so
Tuck got a lot of playing time, so that was cool to see as well.
As he should now. I think especially because I seen someone tweet it, and I think it's true. That tunnel screen they throw, I'm like, dude, that's right up his alley, man. I'm like, don't throw that to Musgrave, bro.
I know. Musgrave, in my opinion, would stretch the field better vertically, and Tuck obviously get the hard yards, right? Hard yards, even tunnel screens, bubble screens. They're probably just trying to work with him, get him to progress a little bit more, and obviously throw more at him. So it'll be cool to see him the rest of the year. I know he's going to continue to make big strides.
For sure.
But let's do our housekeeping real quick, and then we can dive into all the good stuff. So shout out again to Cottonwood Coffee and Bistro, Brookings, South Dakota. These guys are ride or dies with us, and we greatly appreciate their support. It is fall. Check out their daily quiche, their fall menu. They've got some good soups going as far as soup of the day. They also have Unreal coffee. That's their MO, right? So they roast their own beans. They've also got, cold brew, even though it's getting a little bit chilly in Brookings at this time of year. But they've also got espresso. And then don't forget about their online ordering platform at cottonwoodcoffee.com. Any orders over $20, free shipping. That's always a good thing. Put a little money back in your pocket. And you can set up for auto drafts. So that way you can get your fix when you want it and need it with regularity. Also want to shout out True North Retirement Team, helping people protect their assets at any point or any stage of life. Really just setting them up for better financial literacy, whether it be adding different policies as far as life insurance that you can pass on to your family, and just running the whole gamut as far as setting you up with financial security for different stages of life and different things you might experience. Hit them up for a free consultation at 480-323-5801. Now we're diving into it, man. The Saluki game was very bizarre, disjointed, came out with a W. It's good to get a gritty win. What was your takeaway from the game?
Mainly, I thought that was probably the best overall defense that we saw this year. Because it's not our offensive line. I think they feel like they could have played better for sure. But that was also a pretty good defense they were playing against. I thought their D line was, because it's hard to be a 3-down front and be dominant in that. And I think their linebackers helped them out a lot because they were pretty slippery. So you got to give credit to them where it's due. And I think, it's kind of shown by people are kind of respecting them a little bit more nationally. And I think they should, because that was a good football team. I thought our defensive line kind of had another coming out party again, showing it's not just because it was Hobo Day, or it's not just at home. It's wherever we're playing. If you think you can block us one-on-one, we're going to give it to you. And I think, we saw that a lot from guys in the interior getting pressure. With Ryan Vermillion got a sack. I saw DNs, multiple ones getting sacks. Strip sacks too. That was a fun game to watch if you like D-line play. And I think, those guys are coming along really well. And it's been super cool to kind of see because someone taking that personally, where they're like, well, where's all the sacks, like, and all this, and they've been kind of waiting for games like this where guys are going to just try and straight up block in. It's not quick pass, it's not full slide every time. You kind of get to show what you're able to do. So that was cool to see. I thought their coaches had a good game plan too, though. So, and they had a lot of their skills also pretty good, like Stone was saying last week. So credit to them. They played a really good game, and I think the Jacks could have played a better game. I'm sure they know that, but I thought overall, it was just a hard football game, and the guys played well.
Well put, man. Great synopsis of what went down in Carbondale. It was very disjointed, right? Like both teams were stout on defense, but it was, I kind of want to say sloppy, but I don't know if that's the right word for it. It just was, there was no rhythm being able to be established, whether it be penalties, which we had way too many, some of the obscure variety where they weren't even legitimate, not from a biased perspective, but I've never seen them called the way they were called in that situation. The punt phantom fair catch, obviously being the one that sticks out the most, but also Peterson had a great rush of the quarterback. Nick Baker forced him to get rid of the ball. It was incomplete, I believe. And then he just gave him a hand shiver to the chest, and it was bang, bang. Nick didn't even fall down, and they called him for roughing. So it was strange. I think the most frustrating thing about disjointed games like that is you never want to leave it close enough where the refs can make an impact in the game. And hopefully that was a bit of a, not a wake-up call, but hopefully that was a bit of a gut punch, I guess, to make sure the Jacks get that corrected moving forward against some of the stiffer competition that we're going to see in the Valley.
Yeah. And I think, like, to comment on the reffing, I did think some of it was bizarre. Like I think Caden got a roughing the passer call when he was blocked into the quarterback. I'm like, and granted, I'm not out there, so like, I know it's different. You're a ref, but like some of that stuff, like you got to let the boys play to some degree. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and he got pushed into the back of the helmet while still engaged.
Yeah,
and I'm glad they removed the targeting, but it shouldn't even have been a penalty because
exactly.
It's the same thing in punt return. If you get blocked into the punt returner or the punter for that matter, it doesn't count as roughing the kicker. So how can it be roughing the passer? I don't know that you can review a flag after it's already been thrown. You can consult on it, but they should have picked that up, and they should have blown the damn whistle when the fluky returner. Either it's one of two things, and I'd love for Alex Klinkle to weigh in because I know he's a referee, but one of two things. He either gave an invalid fair catch, just like in the Iowa-Minnesota game, where the play is dead and comes back to the spot, or he gave a fair catch signal, they didn't blow the whistle, and we hit him. So
exactly.
In which case, it's on the ref for not blowing the whistle, and it shouldn't be a penalty. It should just be dead at the spot. But whatever. The last one I'll talk about, and then we can scrap discussing the Zebras, is I don't know about you, but did you think that field goal was good?
I just took their word for it at that point. Because I was like, I'm not there, but yeah, I don't.
Maybe I got trust issues after the first few, penalties that were phantom or bizarre or what have you. But I was literally so deceived by my eyes because it comes off his foot. The trajectory is literally tailing wide right. Didn't look good to me. I'm with you, Scott. Didn't look like it. But they called it, so we had to roll with it. But I'm just grateful that it didn't impact the game overall, really, to that. It could have, but it didn't. So if ifs and buts were candies and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas, so they say. And so we're going to have one because that didn't come back to bite us. I think overall, really balanced game. I do agree with Stone. I think that they have some really good quality skill players. And then just to that point, because I know there's been some back and forth this week on X or Twitter or whatever they're calling it these days. But Stone made a comment. It was a bold comment. I think he believes it, and I respect anybody to speak their mind, and I love that we have freedom to do that in this country, but it doesn't mean that there's not consequences to what you say, especially when you're 20 years old. And please believe I'm going to leverage all that stuff just to let people know. Just put it out there. Everybody interpret it how they will. I think that's just how life is. And they're hard lessons sometimes. I think Stone learned a lesson a couple years ago, and we're gonna keep doing our thing. So I don't know why people are getting their feelings about it.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of that this week, and like it's in the past years it's always been they're like, oh well, screw SDSU, like, and all this, and now it's like, whoa, you guys are really mean, like you don't want, like, yeah, no, we don't, like, honestly, I don't care.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like all that, you're mean because you don't want us to have college game day. You're mean spirited. It's like, I don't want to hear all that, bro.
Exactly. Thank you. So you understand where I'm coming from. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people did. All I did was present. We'll dive into it later. I presented a quote from USD's running back, Charles Pierre Jr., where he said he thinks that they have the best running back room in the nation, and just presented it without comments and said feelings sold separately. And anybody who gets in their feelings about that, I love his confidence. I just think that he should have pocketed that.
Yeah, as a grown man, like, you're supposed to say that, right? Like, you're supposed to say that. But at the same time, it's like, well, who are we playing this with? Like, the actual best running back group in the nation. Like, you don't want to say that. And it's especially when you're playing against a defensive line that's really hit their stride like this. And like your O-line's not,
they're not, but
yeah, they're not like 2019 North Dakota State O-line. Like,
right.
You don't make comments like that. You say that in your meeting room.
Exactly. Yeah, you keep it, and then maybe talk about it after the fact. If
exactly,
they get a W. Well, we thought coming in we had the best running back group in the nation. Looks like the stats bore that out to be correct. Something like that. Yeah. I don't know. I guess you and I come from a school where it's like, why would you make things more difficult for yourself?
Exactly.
Than they need to be. And then how it is. You and I like kind of got an edge to us. We talked. I used to get under their skin mid-game. That's when I would talk my talk. Not for the press. We're saying things you don't print in paper.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Cancelable offenses.
Yes. Beautiful way to put it. In terms of that skill, though, I do want to highlight it from an objective standpoint. They got 308 yards on us. We did the same to them, so it was evenly matched there. We beat them up on the ground, 147. We held them to 83. Fun fact, Stone made a comment to me. We were texting back and forth that their second leading rusher was the guy who returned the ball on the fake punt. So, yeah.
That's tough.
You know who their leading rusher was?
It's probably that QB, huh? You got a lot of scrambles out of there.
Exactly, and that's not a good MO. When you're playing against the Jacks, like, we make teams one-dimensional, and we're playing the best running back group in the nation this upcoming week. So we need to really try to shut them down again. And I think what's interesting about that is I don't know what the word is. He's not elusive. I would call him slippery. Nick Baker's definitely a slippery quarterback. He's got a lot of moxie. He did the same to us in 21.
Yeah.
So it just didn't look like – it looked like our secondary was so improved comparatively.
And it looked like kind of, a lot of those passes seemed like they were almost like designed for like a kind of a split open, and then he takes off up the middle. And you kind of see in the first half, like our D tackle and nose guard were kind of like going here, and like he'd see it open and then he'd sprint out there. I don't know if it was something Coach Bibb said or Coach Rogers said, but like in the second half, you could see like there wasn't any more of that splitting in the middle. Like the nose guard was taking it right here, so he had nowhere to go. So that's when we started to get a lot of our sacks too. So
that's a really, really good point, because what carves up defenses is when a quarterback is able to climb the pocket internally, and you can't dent the pocket from the middle, which is what your class and what you were so good at doing, is really absorbing bodies and then getting a push, right? And we saw an improvement as the game went on in that, and forcing them to escape the pocket and Nick to try to get what he could, but really, the brigade was coming for him, and he would only get a few yards here and there. Now, a couple he did extend drives with, but that's not an offensive game plan unless you're Lamar Jackson, right?
Right.
So I think they did a good job of making adjustments. Again, we're the team of adjustments. We did leave points out there on the field, though. We had another interception that shouldn't have been in the red zone. I just think that maybe tight end was gassed, went off his hands. The defender made a great play as well, so you got to kind of give him kudos. But the ball kind of lingered inbounds, which was bizarre. I would have liked to see us just run it there, just continue to pound the rock. Not second guessing or anything like that, but
Yeah.
And then missed field goal that was a deep one, but as we saw, Hunter's leg is certainly capable of hitting from 50 plus consistently, because he boomed that 44-yarder and he blasted that kickoff even after a procedural penalty on us all the way out of the end zone, which might have been the second best play of the game next to Mark's scramble on 3rd and long that really allowed us to eat up some more clock there in the 4th and kind of really establish ourselves before knocking down that last field goal. Agree with Jim here. Need to get the younger tight ends into the game, get them some reps. They'll be needed very soon. Understood. Zach Hines has got a lot of miles on him. I love Zach Hines. He does so much for the team in terms of blocking and being that added huge body, 6'7", 260. And then, he's a vertical threat in the pass game. He's got great length and great hands. And that's why we probably tried him in the red zone. But all those reps, those start to take a toll. And I think Grayton Gannon is poised and ready potentially. I'm not in there seeing how the practices are shaping up, but certainly his movement, fluidity, and what he's able to do in some of the contests I've seen, I think, let's see what they got. What's your take?
Hines probably, this isn't a shot at anyone, but I think Hines probably has the best hands on the team. So it's hard when you got a guy that's that big and is that big of a threat and has come through so many times, to take him off the field. That's a huge target you're taking off the field for Mark, you know what I'm saying? And granted, I'm sure, the other tight ends probably are close to ready to play, but it's just Hines is the guy now, in his last year, the last thing you want is to for you to be do you want to cut down your reps? Of course he's going to say no, so it's just a crappy situation to be in. And not a bad situation, but you're gifted with talent like that, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you're gifted talent all the way around. I that's a really good point. I'm not necessarily saying spell him in the red zone. I'm just saying sprinkle in 1 or 2 reps here. And we are seeing that. You're seeing a lot of Kevin Brenner. There's trust there. You're seeing a lot of Mike Morgan. Obviously, there's trust there. What doesn't he do? Yeah. And then there's different guys you're seeing come in, Christensen, for different
packages,
methods, different packages, and things like that. So, I agree. We need to do it more, I think, but I think we're more comfortable doing that on defense. We roll in waves, obviously, on the D-line. And then because these guys are able to get such similar reps in special teams, it's easy to roll in different backers. It's easy to roll in different maybe safeties at times here and there and some DBs. So it's a good point. Keep an eye on that as the season progresses. We will certainly want to see some guys step up for future depth and down the road as well. I think third down conversion is something we need to talk about. It was abysmal last game. We were caught in a lot of 3rd and long situations due to false starts, maybe some penalties. We did go for it on 1 4th down with the brotherly shove.
Yeah, Mark got launched that play, by the way. Was it Hines that pushed him?
Yeah,
he got launched. I was like, damn.
That was pretty funny, man. I got a kick out of that. But our time of possession could have been even longer had we not put ourselves in some of those 3rd and long situations. Did see some uncharacteristic drops from Yankee Jackson, and I don't know. Our play calling too seemed a little bit out of rhythm. I don't want to say disjointed again, but it's disjointed. 2 quick passes to start the game. I would have liked to seen one feel it out, alternate, pass, run, pass. I understand going to 2 pass plays, but maybe something a little bit more down the field. I don't know. Easy to second guess. Hindsight's 2020.
Yeah.
But I love that we played a game like that due to the fact that you have to get gritty wins. You have to keep everything in context as the season progresses, because you're going to see teams with, good talent at different position groups that may outplay you some games in certain ways, and then may have a little bit of better talent. They may have the nod in some areas, but good stuff for us to put on tape to learn from, and vice versa. So
yeah.
Shout out to Hunter Dustman though for being able to have the resilience to hit such a clutch kick late and then do what he did with that kick. And then shout out to Mark for that scramble. That was unreal.
Yeah,
And shout out to Griffin Wilde, who continues to destroy defenses as a true freshman. And that's something that I don't think Stone has an answer for that. He did laud him on the call because he really is a crisp route runner and just can get what he wants when he wants it. It'll be
to be earning reps like in a position room that loaded is kind of crazy.
I mean, he's an FBS caliber receiver who is in the FCS, and I think that is awesome. And I love that he's not even worried about all the extra stuff and the noise outside that, hey, why is he here? Why is he – he's always loved South Dakota State since he was a little kid. He put the Jackrabbit logo on his wall. So respect to that. Respect to him for continuing to just show up and work as a young buck and earn his way on the bus and earn his way onto the field to be a huge playmaker. So that's awesome. Let's transition. It's the battle for South Dakota this week, my guy, and you've been on the field for some interesting ones.
Yeah.
What are your initial impressions as we get ready to kick off in the Dakota Dome?
I'm interested to see how their defensive line plays against our O-line, because they do actually have some good players. Like from what I saw, I think some of them are actually, I think it's 92. One of their DNs is actually pretty good. And, we got probably the best tackle in FCS, so I'm kind of ready to see how he plays against like a really legit NFL prospect. Kind of see if, not to say if the hype is real, but like to see if how he approaches that. I'm kind of excited to see like how our defensive line kind of attacks their run game, because I'm, with the different kind of coaching changes they've had there, I kind of wonder how they'll attack our defensive line, because I don't think, how they've done it in the past, at least, isn't always the best for them. And I know their coaches know that, you know what I mean? And, with the way they run their power and counter and kind of like space blocking. And I'm not trying to sound like a hater, but like, I don't know how that's going to go against the defense that's playing as well as this one is so far this year.
Yeah. I mean, they are much improved on the offensive line. I will say that. I think schematically they're much improved because Coach Davis, coming over from South Dakota State as the wide receivers and passing game coordinator, I think he understands how to attack teams and how to play to the strengths of the skill that he's got. Because you got to remember, Coach Davis was an all-time great receiver at South Dakota State, loves taking the tops off the defense. Back when he was a GA, when I was at South Dakota State, I mean, we had Jerron Harris, Glenn Fox. We had some like real Mike. Mike played with Mike Steffen, who would take the tops off as well. I mean, we had a lot of really good receiving talent. So he wanted to throw the ball. He was an assistant coach back then, so he had input, but just to say that he understood playing the talent that you've got on the roster. So I think one of the things that they like to do that I've noticed is their offense is going to run through Travis Theis, right? They're going to run it through Travis Theis. They're going to see what they get. They're going to try to get ahead of the chains like smart teams do, and then hit you with play action. They will give you exotic looks, and they ran a reverse against Youngstown State that really tried to create space and get into the open field. They're also going to run shifts, trades, and motions to see how you're going to cover them, like man or zone. A lot of times, if you see a guy running across the entire formation with a jet motion, like they call it, for those who don't understand this or might not be familiar, that's man coverage more than likely, right? Or you can be running man to one side and zone on the other side, but you really have to be good at communicating at the level of safeties in order to understand what coverage you're in so you don't blow coverage. But all that to say, I think it is going to be a different approach under Coach Davis. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think that's a huge get for him. You know what I mean? Just kind of elevating your program to another level and kind of putting a weird twist on this on the rivalry that we have so far. And I can only imagine, you know, what he's saying in there. He's probably saying like, oh, they don't respect you, all that kind of stuff, which, you know, depending on who you are, could be true or not. But I mean, I think that's kind of like a really cool wrinkle that's thrown in there now. And, you know, I'm kind of nervous and excited to see what kind of wrinkles they throw in there for our defense for sure.
Yeah, and in terms of calls and stuff, I mean, he has trade secrets. Like, it's kind of frustrating from that perspective. I always want to see former Jacks guys, especially legends who played there. I mean, he's a JFPA guy, so like, how are you not gonna root for one of your former dudes? But at the same time, you know, he needed an opportunity to continue to try to. He wanted to be an OC, and he should have got an opportunity to be one somewhere, and it happened to be in the conference. Looks like he took a similar formula is what we've been using in Fargo and went in there and got a huge dub against them. But again, this is a team that's not beating itself. From a defensive perspective, they were only going in the Youngstown game, giving up 8 points a game. I think they're still hovering around a really low total. I think they have the best defensive statistics currently in the MVFC. With that being said, I mean, you still have a young quarterback who's a lefty, Aidan Bouman, who seems to be progressing nicely as far as the Yotes are concerned. And he's a lefty, so it's strange to see him run play action and stuff. But, you know, he's got dudes to get the ball to. So Travis Theis, Nate Thomas, Pierre Charles, right? Keandre Jones. So Charles Pierre, rather, but there's dudes on the team who are productive. Their field goal kicker is perfect on the year, 7-7. That's pretty good. Obviously, if you don't miss any that you attempt, you're sitting pretty and giving them an opportunity to be successful. And again, I think that's the MO of this team is they're not shooting themselves in the foot. And in years past, like there's turnovers here, there, and everywhere. I don't know. Have you watched any of their tape this year?
Just on the zoo game, just like watching it, not really trying to break anything down.
So I watched some of the Indiana State game last week, and it was just Indiana State was stifling them at the line of scrimmage. They weren't able to get anything going, but credit again to Coach Davis and that offense for being patient and just letting them, you know, continuing to try to chip away. And then, of course, Charles Pierre Jr. hit one. So then they're able to kind of really extend their lead from that point. But, I mean, it was very late in the game, and it was only knotted up at 3 late in the third quarter. So, and that's to a winless Indiana State. So it's really tough for me to get a read on this team. I think NDSU is down. So pretty impressive to see them get a win there no matter what. But I do think NDSU is down from an overall talent perspective and play calling and on defense, and then play calling on offense. Kind of, you know, that tends to be the sentiment in Fargo. But not to take anything away from them, that's a big dub. What's your thoughts on that one?
I think, you know, granted, a win over North Dakota State, no matter what, you know, for a program like USD is a big deal. And even for, you know, South Dakota State is a big deal just because of, you know, the history that's there. And, you know, and maybe it seems like, you know, everyone's taking their turn on them since like UND took it to them the week after. But I think that's a huge confidence booster, and like that gets like your fans into it. You know what I'm saying? Like now you're kind of seeing a whole lot more people chirping on on Twitter about, there's buzz around USD football and what they can do this year, and they're coming in this game really confident. And I think that's really cool for the rivalry itself. And I do think North Dakota State, I mean, like we all know, this isn't the same North Dakota State from the past like decade. You know what I mean? But I still do think that, there are individual players on that team that are very, very, very good football players that can impact the game, and USD found a way to nullify them. So it's a good win by them.
Agreed. And it's definitely something to consider when you're listening to fan bases here. There's still a strange chip on their shoulder. I think that's kind of where I diverge from like the JI guys. It is a rivalry. I mean, it's your in-state competition. Yeah. And they won the last 2 times in Vermillion, 19 and 21. I don't know how you don't call that a rivalry at this point. I mean, you want to go back 5 years. I mean, that's starting to get where the same classes aren't even enrolled. So I do think this is, it's not to say like you guys took it seriously in 21 too. It's not to say that it's not taken seriously, but the talent disparity had been so large for a while. I mean, outside of Chris Streveler, I mean, they really, I mean, they had some guys here and there. They had some guys even back when I was playing that made it into the league, right?
Yeah.
That are still playing in the league at offensive line. And so they got some dudes, and now they're starting to put together more units. Like they got units that can play. So I think we absolutely need to respect the team, and their fan base is a different story. Their fan base is like really grimy and like not respectful at all, and like stole some of the flags from JI guys. Like,
dealing with that crowd was always like, it was different, I mean, just because like, and when you're playing football, right? Like you're playing football for like a good program, like there's a certain kind of arrogance you have about yourself, not like in a bad way, but like there's a certain type of way where you're like, like, bro, who are you? You go to USD, like, who are you talking to? You know what I mean? Like that's
care about you until you prove it, right? And that's kind of the thing with their fans. Like they have this weird number one, like South Dakota as a whole, things don't get to the state as quickly, right? From a pop culture standpoint, just in general, it's kind of like isolated in the Midwest and in what they call the flyover states. So like the fandom of South Dakota State is taking a little while to come online. There's some diehards, of course, probably the people that listen to us are some diehards, but in terms of the broader fan base understanding, how to cheer, when your team's on offense versus when your team's on defense, how to just, show up, show out. Familiarity with some things was maybe a little behind. It definitely seems way in the past with USD. So it's just a strange dynamic. And like just from the integrity standpoint, I know every fan base has their pains in the ass, but like the way they behaved like towards some people that I'm buddies with, that's just not going to fly. So like, let's keep it on the up and up and show some class and not be a bunch of tools out there. When we're out there, let's take the high road because traffic is better up there. And I'll tell you what, I hate traffic. So there's that little my little tidbit for you guys.
Yeah, and it's all in, like we said, like it's all in good fun, like that kind of stuff. And like the people who should be taking it the most seriously are the people on the field. They're not doing nothing to you in the stands. So like
exactly. Well, I hope not. There have been instances where one of my teammates, Jake Ludeman, got his helmet taken at North Dakota State, which was hilarious, but also by a fan. But also, hopefully none of that occurs.
So yeah, none of that, please, guys.
Also, don't put your helmet down. Like, what the hell?
Another good idea.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Interesting here from Monica Campbell. Never go back because they're fans. I mean, I get it. It's also strange to listen to watch their games and listen to them on ESPN Plus because it sounds so much like a volleyball arena with that lofted ceiling or like a hoops arena because it is. But it's a weird layout. I mean, did you like playing there on the circuit?
I kind of did just because like I thought it was a fun place to play because to some degree of their fans, like if I'm being honest, like, you know, and the ones that are usually like, well, that were by the bench the last couple of times I played there, like there was like John back and forth, but they were always good sports. Like we weren't by like the actual crazy people. You know, so probably some of the people that Monica was around, we weren't around them. But I like the kind of layout where you could just kind of look up at them and then, you know, say what you got to say before Coach Rogers or someone else sees you and then turn back around.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that, you know, overall, I don't want to mischaracterize their fan base. That's just, again, every fan base has its bad eggs, and maybe those are the ones that stood out. But hopefully, since they've knocked us off, I don't know how, still on those last two, maybe that'll give them a little more ease or comfort and not go back and forth and be chippy, but we'll see.
Yeah.
I should point out, getting back to the performers here, you know, Aidan Bouman's throwing it a 69.9, 70% completion percentage. That's pretty high. I mean, that's pretty good. 10 touchdowns. They protect the ball. He's in terms of turnovers, let me pop it up here. He's only got one interception on the year. So it's very, very comparable to Mark in some ways. I do want to point out that he is not nearly as mobile as Mark. He kind of looks awkward and lanky. He can run. He will run if he needs to try to extend the play, but it's not his forte, and I wouldn't expect a lot of that. It will be interesting to see how we utilize Mark to insert another blocker. They run a 4-3. They will rush 3 and add another DB in different situations, in passing situations, to spread them out. In some of the games that I've watched so far this year, just to give you an overall punctuated opinion on it, I think a lot of the teams they played were trying to be overly aggressive, not letting the game come to them. Youngstown State went for it on 4th and 4 at the 50-yard line on the opening series of the game.
That's actually crazy,
bro. I don't understand it. Like it was like a panic move.
Yeah.
They threw an interception, or I'm sorry. So they threw the ball short. They were just a half yard short on that 4th and 4 try. Caught the ball. Great tackle by USD. Ripped them. Fumble. They got the ball at the 50. So I mean, it's just silly stuff like that. Then Youngstown State was driving on its next drive. Got about a 6-7 yard run, fighting for extra yardage. The play should have been blown dead because forward progress was stopped. He fumbles. USD picks the ball up, starts returning it, gets hit by an offensive lineman. He fumbles. Youngstown State recovered the ball. See what I'm saying? Like very sloppy stuff. Now, sometimes wild stuff happens, right? Like Zach Hines catches a ball. He's tucking it away. He's like looking to haul downfield, and it just goes flying. Right, against Northern Iowa. So fluky things can happen, but between that and what I saw at Indiana State, it's just I don't really know what to expect.
You don't want to ease in the games with South Dakota State.
And that's what I'm saying. I feel good about it. I mean, I'm not even trying to come at it from a biased perspective because they are very much improved. And like I said, JD knows trade secrets, and it'll be interesting to figure out how they're going to approach that. And it'll be interesting to see. I would like to see. I think if Zach Lujan were on here just chopping it up with us, he would say, "Yeah, I could be better. There are things I can do to get the ball in the hands of guys in different ways that will allow them to be more successful." So I'm excited to see what he rolls out there this week too, because that 3-3-5 defense, it doesn't play to our advantage in some ways, especially with the length and skill. Again, I would say Stone was more right up from the defensive side of things. Yeah. I think our offensive skill was there. I think our defensive skill is definitely there considering how well we played. But their defensive skills is also really, really good. Their length was good.
And I'd say definitely at the linebacker position too. And like you said, like them playing like that 3-3-4 stack or whatever, like it lent itself to like we were running gap scheme. Like it was just kind of like we would pull, like the gap would be like enormous, right? Like enormous for a running back to run through, but also huge enough where that linebacker's like, oh, that's where I need to fill right now. You know what I'm saying? So, that's just good scheme stuff, and that's the difference between, like, you kind of, there's certain things you want to do against a certain defensive front, and other things that, like,
what I like
on how they play it.
I like trio or bunch out of that in block exchange, like fold blocking.
Yeah.
And then bringing other guys around to, like, maybe lead up or on a motion to see how they're going to cover it. And that's exactly what we started to do later in the game. But it's tough to make adjustments like that on the fly. Plus, I'm just sitting here watching, in my spot with no pressure. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like nothing. So it's easy to be an armchair quarterback from that standpoint. It'll be really – I mean, this is a game, though, putting the spotlight back on the Dakota Dome. This will be a game that I'm really excited to see play out. Like, in terms of overall points per game scored, USD is only averaging 26 points a game, right? So they're not going to wow you necessarily with scoring output, but opponents are only scoring 14.4 points a game. Compare that to South Dakota State. I think we're right around that 14-point margin as well. So it'll be, I want to see statistics, pulling it up here quick. We've got 39.29 points per game, so we're outscoring them by about 13. Yeah, and we're holding opponents to 12.57 points a game. So 88 rush yards a game. Or sorry, that's points. I think we're around 88 rush yards, though, too. We might even be less than that. Defensively, the Jacks are holding teams to – that's passing, here's rushing. 96.1. Pardon me. 96.1 yards per game. It was 88 last year. 794 total yards gains, 3.2 yards average per attempt to our 6.87 yards per attempt. So that's a huge gulf. I think that's going to be probably where the game is won, in the trenches, as almost always. I'd like to see the turnover margin be completely zero, and I'd like to limit our overall penalties. I think we had like 12 for 120 some yards in that game last week. That's high. And uncharacteristic ones again, right? Like Mason McCormick, false start. I know he's antsy. I know the juggernaut wants to knock someone's head off, but especially because on that play, and you can speculate all day. I don't know if you saw it, but on that false start on the first drive, Zay bounced it.
Oh, yeah.
I think he was gone. I think he was gone for about 6 minutes. But, he'll clean that up. And again, we want to be peaking in the later half of the season. So we're emerging into that next portion of the schedule where that's when we want to start our ascent. So this is, again, good stuff to be able to correct from the film sessions that we've got. In terms of, see some other relevant stats. Let's check out. They're 7-7 in field goals. We are lacking in that department. I want to say 4-7. That's not a great percentage. I think we have cleaned it up. I think John Bell's probably, his holds are more consistent. Now it's just a matter of knocking them through. Third down conversions, we've really dropped a little bit since this past game, 58.82%. It's the first time I think we didn't score in the red zone in like 69 attempts or something.
Oh,
like
yeah.
that, with that interception, which is crazy. We're 24 of 25 this year and 23 red zone touchdowns. So that's insane. That streak ended. And in terms of other teams getting in the red zone, they're 13 of 18, and only 7 of 18 of those have been touchdowns. So that's really, really stout red zone defense from the Jacks. In terms of the statistical comparison with South Dakota, their third down percentages are being completed at 42%. Not great. And opponents are only converting, though, at 39%. So that's even lower than where we're at. So we'll see. Something's got to give there. They do have 17 sacks on the season. It's quite a bit. I know we're eking up. We're creeping up into double digits there if we're not well past that, right, at this point.
So, yeah, we had like at least
we had
almost the last 2 weeks.
We had 4.5 last week. And then how many did we have against Northern Iowa?
Oh, man, I think Caden had 1 or 2.
Yeah, we have 11. So they have – I mean, also, if you look at who they've played outside of North Dakota State and Mizzou, you know.
Yeah.
You be the judge. Murray State, Indiana State. I mean, you got 2 wins and no wins respectively there versus Montana State, North Dakota, Northern Iowa that we've already played on the schedule as well. So kind of proof is in the pudding in terms of like opponent. Let's see who they've played this year so far, and then we can kind of get into our predictions. So overall, they started out the year against Mizzou, of course. They took an L there, 10-35. They played St. Thomas. St. Thomas, again, non-scholarship Division I football out of St. Paul, Minnesota. So they're going to be a team that's kind of coming up, but they shut them out 24-0. And that's a team that's transitioning from Division III. Again, they used to piss pound people so bad in Division III that their whole conference was like, yo, you guys got to leave. They left. They were like, no D2. We'll just jump right into FCS. And kudos to them for trying. But 24-0 got shut out against USD there. Lamar, they have really struggled this year as well. 35-6, the Yotes put it on them. Then week 4, they're at North Dakota State, who was ranked number 2 in the nation at the time. They really controlled and dictated that game and led by 2 scores most of the game. 24-19 there. Bouman did a good job at extending plays in that one, finding open receivers, and then the receivers just really were dogs in getting into the end zone. Next week after that was Murray State, right? So they've played to this point really only Mizzou and North Dakota State. Murray State beat the hell out of them, 38-7. Youngstown State, this was an interesting one. Scoring didn't really get going until the second half. Again, like I said, kind of a slop fest early on. People were jabbing one another to try to kind of feel them out like a boxer would. And then it kind of blew open late, 34-31. That was an interesting game I watched because Youngstown is on the come up. They do some similar things to us on the offensive side of the ball, and then it allowed me to kind of see how they might play us. Then they this is the head scratcher. So after that close one against Youngstown, who I do think is a good program, they played Youngstown at home. Then they go on the road to Terre Haute, and then they eke out a 17-3 win against winless Indiana State. So strange.
But Indiana State, I don't know. They've been playing people kind of tough recently. So
they're a good team. So
they're much better than their record. Yeah, I think so at least.
But especially on defense. But I don't think offensively. I guess offensively they didn't do much. But but I guess that's the difficulty there. So yeah, Indiana State, credit them for fighting hard, and I don't know. That's a confusing one. So they got us, and then they're at Southern in Carbondale right after. So
we'll see how legit these guys really are here in the next couple weeks.
Exactly. Then they got then they got North Dakota at home, and then they're at Western Illinois. So they've had quite the favorable schedule, so to speak, outside of us, North Dakota State, and then at Southern Illinois. Other than that, you don't have to go into Grand Forks and play at the Alaris Center. Interesting stuff. So we'll get into our predictions here and our assets of the week presented by True North Retirement Team. Let's start on the defensive side of the ball. Who's your asset of the week this week?
Asset of the week this week on defense, got to go with Deshaun. I'm excited to see what he does. And the celebrations were sweet this week, by the way. I got to shout him out. Those celebrations were dope, man.
Yeah, the dancing one, what one did you like?
What was it? The one he's like up there like that one. I was like,
Oh,
okay,
that one was
nice,
sick.
Sean.
It looked like he was closing, like he was locking down something, like a safe or something.
Yeah, I'd seen some about it on Twitter. I think some rapper did it, something like that. Who knows? Still looks sweet, but yeah, I gotta go Daishan because I think they're gonna test us through the air, and I'm excited to see our guy set up to the challenge. We're gonna go to offense next.
Yeah, we're gonna. I'll pick mine, and then
my bad.
So no, you're good. You're good. So I like Daishan as well. So you kind of took one of mine, but I will say their offensive line has improved. I'm gonna go with Stallbert again. It's on turf. I think he's already a real fast, lengthy linebacker that could certainly get paid for playing football.
Yeah.
And I think that they might use him in some unique ways. It'll be interesting to see if Bach plays. I'm glad he got some reps this past week. All things considered, it sounds like he's still healthy, so that's good to see. I'm sure he'll continue to progress. That's my guy. I do want to shout out what Jim said here. Players of the game. He's got Amar on offense, Zach on defense, Zach Wilson out of Arizona. The special teams Tucker Large. He thinks he'll house one. 27-23 good guys. That's a pretty solid. It's a pretty solid run of it, Jim.
I forgot. I'm glad he said that because I wanted to mention Zach this week.
Dude, he played so well.
I say Zach was my favorite roommate. Awesome guy, most laid back dude in the world. But like just kind of seeing him starting to kind of earn reps a little bit is just super awesome. Like just seeing kind of the path that he's taken to get to where he is now. And guy doesn't do a whole lot of complaining, and just to see him get opportunities and make something of them. Zach, if you're watching this, I'm proud of you, man. Keep kicking ass, please.
Yeah, man. And his bend was exciting for me to see, like how low he was getting and still getting a push when he was ripping and clubbing and doing his transition pass rush. I was really excited to see. Built like a straight-up football player. So
he's gotten a lot bigger. I mean, shout out to Coach Jacobs, man. These guys look kind of scary these days.
He's built great. Yeah, I mean, we got some dogs, and I like to see it. And again, that's another reason I'm not trying to rush anybody off. That's a vet that's balled out for state. I just want to see this young talent and see where they're at and see how they've grown within the program, within the scheme. So it's just it's pure excitement and anticipation, not a knock on anybody else.
Yeah.
So Jim, thanks again for all your engagement and shouting out your picks of the week. Offensively, who you got as your asset of the week?
Man, after what Isaiah Davis did to him last year, man, I gotta go with my guy, bro. I'm expecting more, and in big games is when he shows out the most. And I'd say, this is since Montana State, probably the biggest one so far this year. And we all know what he does in games like that, so I'm expecting to see that again this year.
And I will say, did he have over 100 against Montana State? I think they kind of. Did they bottle him up a bit?
A lot of all those turnovers and all that. But I'm saying, my guy, he's not good. He'll send somebody out of bounds by their face mask. I'll put that.
That's true.
Because I remember that play from that game.
And look, now we got to be real here and keep it 100% candid. I mean, USD's improved. They're not Montana State.
Yeah.
They are not Montana State. Especially, Travis Theis will hurdle a guy. But he won't hurdle a guy like Julius Davis did, land on his feet and get another 30. If any of you guys saw what he did to Sac State this past week on ESPN2, Montana State.
Great game, by the way.
That was. Montana State's got some dogs. They do play Idaho, so it'll be a good measuring stick for us to see what the Fighting Jason X are all about in that one. I'm trying to pull up real quick. I do want to see statistically Isaiah's performance because he does perform the best in big games, but I think that might have been the one that gave us some trouble late, game by game. Montana State. Here we go. So we had Isaiah only had 66 yards rushing. Griffin Wilde was the leading receiver in the game with 49. Mark had 184 through the air. Remember, that was one where they possessed the ball for so damn long.
Yeah.
They bled the clock, and turnovers were what did it in that one. So, again, I think that's going to be the MO that Coach Davis and Bob Nielsen are going to have coming into this. Let's possess the ball as long as we possibly can with our approach, as opposed to trying to allow them to possess the ball. Like, it's like beat them at their own game, right? So with that being said, you got Zay Davis. I think I'm going to go again with speed and slash, right? Speed and slash on defense. And that's my guy Stallberg. Speed and slash on offense. That's my guy Amar. I agree. I think this is tailor-made for him. It's basketball on turf. I think it's going to be great for him to showcase his cutting ability. And yeah, that's where we're at. Sorry to all the Yankees. I know they're going to probably tear it up as well. And we'll see if they have an answer for Griffin Wilde. So
yeah, that is true.
And then moving forward into special teams, and then we'll get into predictions.
Special teams. I don't know if I picked Graham last week, but I want to pick him again because he's been playing. He's been delivering blows on there, and it's just he makes you excited to watch like punts and kickoffs because you're like, all right, I got to find Graham because I want to see this guy is going to get destroyed that tries to block him. So he's just my personal favorite to watch on special teams right now.
I agree. I like his physicality. I like Caleb Francel as well. I mean, either way, it's going to be tough. I think because this is a rivalry game and it's going to be a battle, I'm going to go with Dustman. What he did in the punting game last week, what he did in the kicking game, I mean, he was a stud, especially after certain operations not being as fluid as we'd like them to be. So, again, big shout out to him to be able to continue to bounce back when he would otherwise probably like to, be perfect from field goal range. And he's doing everything. So his legs got to be getting tired, but he continues to deliver. So now we're going to move into predictions. Who do you got on top? You said you were going to pick the Yotes, right?
Oh, yeah, of course. I got 42-17 good guys.
Okay. 42-17 good guys. They're giving up 14 points a game. We're giving up 12-ish. I'm going to go 40. I'm going to go 37-28. No, 37-21. Good guys.
Yeah. And this isn't like – I just don't want to sound like it's freaking discredit to these guys or anything because I do. Like you said, I think their program's gotten a lot better. Again, I like the way their defensive line has been playing, but at the same time, you got the best offensive line in FCS rolling in here, the best running back room in FCS rolling in here, the best altogether defensive line in FCS rolling in here, the best linebacker in FCS. Just – not to try and toot our own horn and all that, but
I mean, it's objective at this point. That's all. Yeah. I mean, it's not that's the thing. Certain fans are like, oh, I'm anxious. Like, why are you anxious?
Right.
I mean,
for what?
We've got the resume. We've got the preparation. And as it relates to this game, we've got the motivation because they stole one from us in 2021. And then in 19, we gave the ball away to them on special teams 4 times with fumbles. Yeah. So, and they were unforced. It was just dropping the ball or not catching a punt. And in reality, I think they're going to be extra motivated because, when you lose a game more than another team wins sometimes, and granted, USD, they had an opportunity to kind of ice the game in a certain way in the 21 contest. So, I think it could go both ways in that one. That was a hard fought game. And then in 2019, they had some talent. They had some talent there too. So the last two dropping in Vermillion, I think will be enough motivation, plenty of motivation to want to get another one on the good side of the column for the Jacks.
Yeah, and I'm sure Coach Rogers has those boys ready to go. I am sure.
I'd be in their ear from anybody that was on that 21 team. You gonna let them win it late? Yeah, you're gonna let them win it late, aren't you? You're gonna take. You need a rest. Yeah, you're gonna take a rest with waning moments of the game.
I say, yeah, man.
That a seed to not have to go 3 straight games on the road. Yeah, go take a rest. You want to take a rest. He's gonna be like that little devil on your shoulder.
I could not believe that. When that happened, and they took care of business last year, so I'm not salty about it. But taking care of business there will be a big deal too, so it'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, they're plenty motivated, just like you said, Scott. They, Q brought up in the game as well that his senior class has never won in the Dome, so it's first time for everything, right?
Yep.
Be a great time to showcase it on Saturday. So the game, I believe, is at 2:00. I want to say it's at 1 p.m. Awesome. 1 p.m. Midcoast Sports Network, ESPN Plus, obviously Jackrabbits Sports Network. Give Tyler Merriam and the guys a listen through the Varsity Sports app. You can sync it up if you don't want to listen to Midco. I think Jay Elson will be on the call because it's a Coyote game. I feel like they're decent, but it should be the Valley game of the week, I would imagine. Either way,
yeah, it should be.
It's a game of the week for us, so
yeah.
We're going to rock with it. We appreciate y'all for listening. We'll have the audio of this dropping tomorrow. Want to let y'all know I did an interview with Bree Fielder that's going to drop on Spotify Thursday morning at 7 a.m. So for those of you who like to listen to the podcast, that's going to be available. Bree does yoga for athletes. She works with both the soccer team and the South Dakota State football team. You might have seen them post their own yoga sessions on Facebook and Instagram and all their social channels, but she does a great job. She started with them post the Iowa game, so maybe proof is in the pudding. She and her team are magic for the Jacks in getting the boys right, so you never know. And then on Friday, we should have a post to our Substack. Scott Wagner's done a great job contributing to that, really devoting his time and attention to all things South Dakota State football. We appreciate that. Some of his insights have even been implemented, like extending the song on Enter the Sandman as the guys come out. That's awesome. So, and shout out to the administration for listening and taking input and feedback. That's always a sign of a true open and curious and joint relationship with the fan base. So greatly appreciate that. If you would, sorry, continuing to ramble on here, but like, subscribe, and leave us a review. If you feel so inclined, it helps it present more in people's feeds on Spotify, and it'll help boost attention to everything that we're doing here at Splitting Hairs Media. So with that, go big, go blue.
Go Jacks.